Reports from the capital here in our state and right here in the region, coming to you worldwide as well. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. The heat is back. Going to be into the 90s today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. It's going to feel probably a little warmer than that. So 3 days of that, we'll probably call it a heat wave. Dry conditions out there. Hope you had a good weekend. Got a packed show for you, so buckle up. A lot going on this morning. Going to hear from Doug Tangdon on the economic side. Will the trade deal or deadline to reach something with China be extended beyond tomorrow? Markets are up, by the way, this morning, regardless of a lot of stuff. President Trump to meet with Vladimir Putin Friday in Alaska without President Zelensky of the Ukraine in attendance, but he'll be watching closely. Also, this morning, we're going to hear from President Trump on out of D.C., that is, probably soon here, too, on Good Morning New Hampshire, the Pulse of an Age, but on a federal crackdown, law enforcement combining with local law enforcement to crack down on violent crime and violence in the capital of Washington, D.C. Federal agents working with local police, they're going to crack down, and that's been a real problem there, as you well know. Everything from carjackings to shootings, and the crackdown underway in Washington, D.C., of all places. You know, a story that we first had here, I think it was back in June, J-Dog, a few months ago, first heard here on my show, Good Morning New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H, a big purchase of more than 300,000 square foot building, 23 acres in Nashua, New Hampshire's second largest city, by the wealthiest individual from China. The deal about 3 times what market value seemed to be for that building in 23 acres, happening in Nashua quietly right about the beginning of the year. And now people are raising more questions and concerns. Dongfu Water Bottling Company, the largest water bottling company in China, the director, one of the main directors, the same individual bought this land. There have been a lot of unanswered questions, and now there's increasing concern. We're going to hear from the original whistleblower on this whole story who told us about it back. And the chronology of media coverage in the Granite State was we had the segment here on the show. Then Mike Cody of the New Hampshire Business Review did an article, and we raised questions about this. And most recently, WMUR jumping on board, doing an investigative piece. So we're going to hear more on that in a moment. But first, J-Dog, you are headed to Chicago, but not until next week. Hope you had a good weekend, and now the heat is back, dog. Okay. And our poll question that we can probably tell you in a moment up on X at the Pulse of an H. All right. Do you have security concerns about that purchase by the wealthiest individual from China? By the way, to give you an idea of something that doesn't add up, but I guess it's good for the sellers, right? Always good when someone pays you too much for something if you're selling it. $67 million purchase price for a property or an asset or a building in Nashville that was valued at under $15 million, $67 million. You go add those numbers up. All right, we'll tell you what's coming up this morning. We'll get some of our regulars back from a little bit of vacation last week. Anna Brown Citizens Count will kick off the 10 o'clock hour. We'll talk about some of the state stuff. Neil Levesque, St. Anselm College Institute of Politics will weigh in. We'll hear from Michael Graham as well. Tomorrow, still to be confirmed, but I believe we're going to be hearing from Kelly Ayotte, the governor, live to kick off the show tomorrow morning. And she has real concerns, as she told yours truly in my show last week when I raised questions about the Public Utilities Commission. The Public Utilities Commission. You may not even think about it. Maybe out of sight, out of mind, until you get the electricity bill for your apartment, condominium, or home. And it's just going up and up and up and up and up. And it's going to go up and up and up and up. And the Public Utilities Commission recently, after hearing these supposedly public hearings, which very few people know about, if it wasn't from my show here, I started talking about this a few months ago. One of the best interveners in this case was one of our great partners and sponsors, AARP of New Hampshire. Christina Patrick was on Friday. They intervene on behalf of you and me, the ratepayers, the people who pay the bills, the customers. She called the Public Utilities Commission's actions and decisions rulings favoring the utilities, including Eversource, the largest in the region, granting them everything they asked for and then some. Her quote, her word, quote unquote, atrocious. We're going to hear from Kelly Ayotte. We heard from Executive Counselor John Stephen last week on this. He's concerned. He wants to ask the Public Utilities Commissioners, what were you thinking? Well, apparently, ratepayers, they weren't thinking much about ratepayers, were they? But it's just kind of crap that people, everyone's so busy today and distracted. And you would think that there would have been a lot of more public disclosure and concerns about Eversource was requesting of the Public Utilities Commission a 17% rate hike. 17%. My UVM math would tell me that's closer to 20% than 10. I don't think any bill in your home went down 20%, 17%. I don't think your income probably went up 17%. And that's what they wanted. So your electricity bills now for a couple of, for example, someone who sent us their bill or a copy of it in Manchester, um, home, I guess it's around 2,000 square feet. Just they live there, a couple without kids or a senior or anyone, just regular usage. $558 before the rate hike for a month. Now, with this heat, watch the bills go up this week. I mean, we have a heat wave coming in today, tomorrow, and the next day. So these bills are getting closer to $1,000 than 500, and it's getting to be pretty outrageous. So, Public Utilities Commission, they could have said no. Could have said no. I don't think Eversource was going to stop distributing or supplying electricity to you. I think they're kind of built for that here, the poles and their distribution. You could have said no. So we're going to hear more on that this week as we get going. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of NH. A couple other stories. J-Dog, I got to tell you, even though it was Friday night and even though it was preseason, it doesn't matter at all. Patriots look pretty darn good against the Washington Commanders. They didn't have much command that night, and Patriots look good across the board. And there's a lot of sports going on, of course. J-Dog's on his way to what? Wrigley? Are you going to – is that where you're going next week? Wow. You'll be like a little kid in a candy store. Gonna get some hot dogs? You not a hot dog guy at a game with mustard? No? All right, J-Dog. Hey, by the way, President Trump will be speaking at 10 o'clock this morning during our show this morning in the White House briefing room. John Decker will be there, our own White House correspondent. He said yesterday on social media on that the news conference on crime and beautification will not only involve ending the crime, murder, and death in our nation's capital, but it will also be about cleanliness and general physical renovation and condition to our once beautiful and well-maintained capital. That's all happening this morning. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of NH. We come back, really the original whistleblower, concerned about a deal. She knows a little bit about China. She knows a little bit about the communist regime in China. She fled China, where she grew up, to get away from communism, to get away from that system, to get away. So China, if you notice in some states like Florida and others, trying to buy up big chunks of real estate in our country, ongoing cyber threats, ongoing all kinds of threats. And this story happened, well, almost a half year ago, and no one was talking about it until she came into our studios. We'll hear from Lily Tang Williams in a few. Back on the Pulse of an H right after this. Okay, I want to tee this one up a little bit. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hope you had a good weekend, by the way, as we get going. We're just about 20 minutes after the 9 a.m. hour. Here we are, and getting into August, as they say. But for the next 3 days, it's going to feel like mid July. But you know what? It's August. It feels like that as well. 3 days of hot weather. Starting today, I guess officially a heat wave. You know, speaking of the weather and the date being August, it was back at J Dog. Our guest in studio thinks it could have been May, but it was certainly spring, early summer. We had Lily Tang Williams on my show, raising concerns about a real estate purchase in Nashua, New Hampshire, by the wealthiest man in China, and a lot of questions, including the nearby water supply for the city of Nashua. A lot of questions of why someone would spend about 3 or 4 times the assessed value of a 23-acre property, 300,000 square foot plus building, probably assessed then less than 15 million bucks. It sold for $67 million to this individual from China. And no one is really talking about it. In fact, no one was talking about it. And it happened at the beginning of the year. So in the spring, we had Lily Tang Williams on my show as someone to speak about this because she was fully aware of this. She knows a lot about China. She'll tell you about that in a moment. She was or is now, and I think she might have been then, running as a Republican again in the 2nd Congressional District. Maggie Goodlander, the Democrat in that district now, and Lily Tang Williams in our studios because now more people are paying attention to you and what you raised concerns about back then. Thanks for being with us.
Well, good to be back here, Jack. And I'm glad that we made a progress to increase public awareness. More and more Granny Staters know about this. And tomorrow night there will be a Board of Aldermen's meeting in Nashua at 7:30. So we're trying to encourage people to write to mayor, to the board members, and also show up. So I plan to be there 7:30, and this is a serious issue. That because I grew up in China, I know the true colors of Chinese Communist Party called the CCP, and what is their game plan, what is their long-term goal, their ambitions.
Well, and it was, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when you came in and I heard about this, and then I think a week or so later, after you were on my show, Mike Cody, the New Hampshire Business Review, did a story, and there hasn't now most recently, WMUR jumped on board a little bit late in the game, but did a nice in-depth piece, expose, investigative piece. But when you first came in, it was the first really and media was it the first time raised on this show here? Was back then when you were on? And what were and what are your concerns?
Well, that I know there is a low line between the party and the so-called private company in China. And Zhong Sansan is by Forbes magazine the richest man in China and has the largest beverage company inside of mainland.
Is that called Nong Fu?
Longfu Springs, yes.
And bottling water bottling company, the largest in China.
They sell also teas and other
Mhm.
drinks. And why did they need to come here, pay 4 times much to buy this real estate? And what is their plan? If a plan is the water, water bottle business margin, what do you think? How they're going to pay back the $67 million deal?
How far is this purchase, 23 acres, from the water supply there in Nashua, roughly? Is it close?
I think it's 7 minutes drive if you do drive, but actually you can see on the map. It just
Do you think this was a harmless real estate transaction, or do you think there was a strategic reason behind it? And do you have local or national security concerns, or is that overstated?
we have quite a lot of national security concerns because I went to the site 2 times already and took a video of it. Cross Strait is an L3 Harris defense contractor. That within just maybe 8 minutes is a BAE.
BAE Systems is a huge defense
I
contractor.
was told that 80% of their project are top security.
Yeah, you can't get on that campus unless you know the security there
And
for
lots of
BAE
people who
Systems.
work there could be also targeted with China's history of espionage and stealing our intellectual property
Right.
and the business know-how and the military secrets. There's lots of red flag.
Now, I think even some are asking the federal government look into this, the Treasury Department and some, but it seems to be a little bit late for people to be concerned here. Why do you think it was so quiet in the beginning? You were on my show back in the spring or early summer, first time it was talked about. There was a little bit of media coverage and then quiet and then more now. And I've read national stories now. I've read national. There was a story out of England, one of the great, in London, there was a article about this Nashua, New Hampshire, Chinese buying up more strategic land in America. And here you are, Nashua, New Hampshire. Why didn't we hear more out of Nashua, New Hampshire? Where was the mayor? Where was the board of aldermen? Typically, Lily, as I age in place on this earth, I often say on things that don't make sense, follow the money. Follow the money. So I'm wondering here if you had a chance to look into, because one of the things I found in my research is an article, Stag Industrial was the seller
Yes.
and 67 million was paid. Were other people in Nashua aware of this from like city officials or waterworks, or who had their hands in the till here?
We're still looking into it. I did tip our state representatives, senators, and the governor's office immediately once I found out about this. And then I start to do things on my own. And I'm glad it's national, it's international now because I have done probably 10 interviews with
Yeah.
different media about this. And the news station blew that up by interview me in their video, in their show with some other state leaders. It's not a partisan issue. We got to worry about
Right,
the
right.
Chinese company that owned by
We-
richest man in here strategic location, our air traffic control national airport.
Yeah.
It's next to it.
Right.
And then Manchester Space Force joint base in Cape Cod,
Yeah.
which requires a mandatory review by census under
We-
Treasury Department within 100 miles radius. It is 90 miles radius.
Right.
They cannot review it because they closed during the transition
Right.
of two presidents. So
Right.
there's nobody there.
Now, Lily Tang Williams, you are running as a candidate. We'll come back to that as a Republican, but here, still talking about this issue in the second congressional district, of which Nashua was a part. After you were on months ago talking about the first real interview about this, Mike Cody, I believe, from the New Hampshire Business Review, put a reporter on this, and I think he shared, some information back and forth with yours truly, hosting my show, and with the article. I think the Nong Fu water bottling company or the owners had put on social media they were hiring they were hiring local. They wanted to hire, it was out of New York, local managers for the Nashua, New Hampshire, quote unquote, operation. Do we know what's happening there now? Has there been any development? Are they redoing the building? Are they trying to bottle water out of there? Do we know what's happening with the site that was bought for $67 million currently?
I think right now it's not doing anything. They withdraw their application to widen their driveway, and after we made to the new station.
You mean with the publicity, things have quieted down?
Yes, it quiet down. We also start to ask a question from the local elected officials. And my video on X has got like 800,000 views. When I show up by the national airport, an airplane took off behind my back. I turned around to tell them, hey, besides the water plant, here's the Chinese-owned Daniel Webster College. It has been active for 8 years. There are two renters on campus, and one of them is Zhong Company that probably is owned by last name is Xu, Hector Xu, and he might be from New England. So there's a lots of questions.
So the college, the airstrip, they used to be the old big program there was teaching people flying.
Yeah.
You're saying they own that as well, some Chinese owners.
Yeah, they own
Yeah.
it, and it's by
How do you-
Quad
how do you-
Educational Service.
How do you, what would you say to someone, and maybe you should share a little bit of your story and we have more time, we come back. Lily Tang Williams, you grew up in China, you fled China, you grew up there as a kid. Hey, this is just private real estate transaction. Don't get all worried and get all weird just because it's a Chinese nationalist that bought it. What do you say to someone who says, "What's the big deal if they bought it?"
Well, I lived under the regime for 24 years. I studied law. I'm very politically aware what is their ambitions by new leader Xi Jinping. He has been there for 10 years now. He has a China dream, which is to take over United States by 2049 to become number one dominant power, and his China dream includes software invasion of the United States and the Western countries through business and through the coalition, through interfere with the elections and through education and through apps even. That's why we're talking about TikTok, ban, all that.
Yeah.
So they have a consistent long-term goal. They are our biggest
Yeah,
country.
Well, I could tell you, as a civilian, I had the high honor of being able to go to the National Security Seminar at the U.S. Army War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and the general who was running our seminar said the number one adversary in the world is not Russia, it's not North Korea by any stretch, it's not even Iran, it's not in the Middle East, it's China. Number one in the Arctic, they're up in the Arctic. Cybersecurity, stealing business information, information warfare, if you will. So hold the thought. We're going to come back. You're going to go to the Nashua City was Alderman meeting tomorrow night.
Yes,
Will you be able to ask questions?
I hope so.
Now
I'm
what?
set up to speak.
Yeah. Now the water supply for Nashua is near that building site, right?
Yes,
And that's controlled by a water. Is it Pennachuck Waterworks? I remember them from the past.
yes, it's a local Pennachuck corporation.
Have you spoken with?
Profitable corporation.
Have you spoken to them about this?
Not yet, and I have been only through the social media.
If they're concerned, I remember the only quote the governor, I think she was in that New Hampshire Business Review article, was she hopes they're just a client of the waterworks and not controlling it.
Yeah, but why do we even sell our natural resource water to our biggest adversary country?
Yeah.
National.
Yeah.
So the national, that means the word is his allegiance, loyalty. Plus, people got to understand the national security law of China mandates all their nationals and business, doesn't matter where they operate, they got to comply with the laws. Otherwise, they could take over their property inside of China.
Now, real quickly, this purchase has been made with the publicity now and things like this. Things have quieted down, but there may be a concern here. Can the state or the U.S. government do anything at this point to sort of police and make sure nothing nefarious happens there?
The federal government can't stop it because that joint base location and the strategic location, there are military installations. They can come in, investigate it by the CFIUS, which is Committee Foreign Investment Review, to stop it.
Now, real quickly, Maggie Goodlander, if you get the nomination in the 2nd congressional district, you run before as a Republican. She's the Democrat incumbent. She's running again. She was on my show a week or two. We did not get into this issue. But do you believe she's been attentive and concerned about this? She was quoted in the WMUR piece, or do you think it's only because of the recent media attention that she's gotten involved?
Well, I've been working on this for over 3 months. I have not seen her anything from her social media, from her team. All of a sudden, she was asked by WMUR on this issue.
Yep.
She was in the video. So she's supposed to live in Nashua as a renter there. Why she has not done anything, say anything from the federal government, even the DC position. So that's a good question.
Well, thank you so much for coming in, the Louis Tang Williams, and updating us. Stick around if you want for a moment. We'll be back on the Pulse of an H. Good morning, New Hampshire. Jack, Heath, J-Dog on the board. Stay cool, stay hydrated. No pun intended. Back in a moment. All right, welcome back on this Monday. So before we wrap up our in-studio guest, hey Alexa, hey Google, play the pulse of an H. Well, by the way, our poll question this morning has to do with the subject. So I'll tell you what it is on X because Lily Tang Williams you have a big following on this subject, and that is, do you think there are security concerns about this Nashua real estate transaction by this the wealthiest individual from China? Yes or no? Do you have concerns? Yes or no? Before we let you go, Lily Tang Williams in our studios on a Monday. Thanks for coming in. What we know is someone paid about just under $70 million, 67 million for a commercial piece of real estate, 23 acres in Nashua, the second largest city, 300,000 square foot building that was assessed at the time for probably less than $15 million. Someone paid, or we know who paid, the buyer, the wealthiest individual from China, 67 million. That's a red flag to me. And he's also a director, whether he's listed as the owner or not, but a director of the Nongfu water bottling operation, which is the largest water company in China. This is what we do know. Now, typically, you and I were talking, Lily Tang Williams. I don't know what the goals are here. I do know that you pointed out that BAE Systems, there are some national defense contractors in and around Nashua, not far from here. The Waterworks is right there, the supplier of water for the second largest city in Nashua. A lot of people locally haven't been expressing any concern. You first came in a few months ago. Now there's more media attention. This is what we do know. But I asked you during the break, if you had a home, because to me it's all about real estate, 23 acres in Nashua, a building, 300,000 something square feet. If you had a home, and I'm being hypothetical, if you had a home in New Hampshire and you were going to sell it, and let's just say, and this would be on the low side, let's say you could sell it for $500,000. Let's say your home is only worth $500,000. If someone were to offer you $4 million for your home, you'd probably sell it, but would you be a little bit wondering why they want to spend so much for your house?
Of course, I would dig into why do they want to pay their money?
What's underneath my house, right?
Yeah,
Or, what's here?
Mine?
Yeah, what's here? What's here? So you're going to the Nashua mayor, board and alderman, whatever they call it tomorrow night, the city hall meeting in Nashua. And is this topic on the list of things they're covering?
Pennychuck, yes, it's on the agenda, and I heard that president of the Pennychuck company is coming to be there, so people are welcome.
They're the water, sort of the overseer of the water company there, the utility, if you will, local water.
So this is something where per WMUR video report that they were talking to Chinese company Nongfu Springs last December before the closing on January 31st. Who approached them first? Who broke the deal? Who arranged the meeting? And why were they negotiating to get the assurance? Oh, we will sell you water. So they closed deal in January. There's just lots of questions need to be answered, and people in New Hampshire need to know, and lots of Americans wanted to know what's going on in the live free or die state.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in, and that's tomorrow night. Keep us posted, please, after your meeting.
I will. Yeah, you're welcome to have me back.
Okay. Thank you. Keep in touch. Thank you very much. If people want to learn more, what's the best way? And of course, you're running for office. We just had Maggie Goodlander on, the Democrat. What's the best way to learn more?
We'll have a website, lilytangwilliams.com, and I'm a very active on social media, especially X. Have a 250,000 people follow me, and I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. I have my own YouTube. So plenty of places to actually reach out to me, write to me, and keep following up on this deal. What's going to develop? We need to voice our concerns here.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, coming up at 10 o'clock this morning, President Donald Trump will be addressing cracking down on crime and violence in Washington, D.C. at 10 a.m. Also, speaking of China, ironic that Lily Tang Williams was just in our studio talking about this story. Tomorrow is the deadline with China on whether or not the trade deadline for tariffs and a new deal or trade deal is going to be extended or not. Is that affecting the markets? Doug Tengden on the World Market Advisors side is going to be joining in to see. But right now, markets are up, sort of seeing through this, but we'll see where that goes. Also, I guess Mother Nature in the news, and under the category of we shouldn't have to tell you things you should already know. It's going to be hot out. Today, tomorrow, and Wednesday into the 90s is Mike Pomp in our morning information on the news side of things said earlier this morning. It's going to feel even warmer than 92 or 94, and that's today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And if you do have anything you care about, including yourself, but a pet, um, a person, especially a kid, please. Don't leave anything you care or love about in a vehicle today in the middle of the day, anywhere, sitting on pavement. Some people will do that and they think it's okay. And you'd be surprised how quickly that vehicle can get over 100 degrees. And hyper and hypothermia, there's a couple kinds of that. But when you get too much heat, it is very dangerous. It can be fatal. The other thing, too, is I'm just going to point this out. A lot of people love to walk their dogs. I'm included in that category. Middle of the day on a day like today, that pavement, please, it's, just use your head. But again, these are things that we people tend to forget unless it's right in front of them. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. I just told you our poll question up on X at the Pulse of an H. Are you concerned about any security issues with that national real estate deal? Yes or no? That Lily Tang Williams was just giving us an update. J Dog, our results, I believe, from Friday. Yeah, I'm with the no category. I think we are going to feel some more heat. I think we are. And of course, it's dry now. It's amazing. We go from, was it in June, J Dog, or a couple months? We had 14 weekends in a row of rainy Saturdays. And I said, let's not talk about drought. And yet here we are. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google, play the Pulse of Nature. We'll check in on the markets and see how they're reacting to some of that trade stuff. Again, we'll hear more. John Decker, our own White House correspondent, will be at that White House press briefing room as the president. Think about this. Rather remarkable. President in the White House, which is part of that district, D.C., Washington, D.C., and you have Congress and you have people that live there and, expensive, parts of that city. And just heard about the Navy Yard violence they had the other night. But this has been happening for years. Anyone who knows anything about Washington, D.C., carjackings, violence, the crime has been going up and up and up in DC for years. It's not just recently. It's been going up for years, cumulatively. And now, President Trump, obviously having enough of it, wants to put an end to it. He's not just talking crime, he's talking homelessness, he's talking the whole thing. He calls it the beautification of our nation's capital. Well, you know what? It's become a pretty dangerous place, our nation's capital. And that is our nation's capital. You think about it. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some people protesting, jumping up and down, blasting law enforcement for cracking down. But what about Cincinnati, Ohio? What about San Francisco, California? What about Chicago, Illinois? What about New York City? What about places in our country where violence just seems to be random and out of control? Really bad violence in our major cities. And now the president's going to focus on the Capitol. Fine with me. What about you? Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Play the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, J Dog on the boards. We are back with Doug Tengden next. Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the narratives that kind of take over the news. We'll be checking in with Doug Tangden in a moment. World Market Advisors talking about the trade deadline with China, see if it's going to be extended. But federal agents and working with local law enforcement are going to begin a crackdown. Hundreds now potentially National Guard could also be brought in to deal with Washington D.C. Taking back Washington, D.C., and we'll see. The president's going to be speaking in just a few moments at 10 a.m. this morning, and we'll see where it goes as the president wants to clean up the nation's capital. Doug Tangden, worldmarketadvisors.com, one of our great partners and sponsors out there on the economic side. Good Monday morning, Doug. I am doing okay, I guess. Markets I heard coming in this morning, futures, Dow, futures before I went on were up. Markets are up. And yet tomorrow we're waiting to see on this tariff stuff if there's going to be a deadline or, if the deadline is going to be extended with China. Take it away, Doug. And how quickly could they ease? Sure, to give them stall. Hey, real quick. Now, there's not an immediate, yeah, under the category of things that are, I think, intentionally convoluted sometimes, so only people like you understand them. My understanding on interest rates, the Federal Reserve, there's a bank to bank rate that they're, charge if banks to banks are, borrowing and spent, whatever. And then there's consumer stuff. And everything always takes time to trickle down and filter down to the consumer. But if the Fed lowers the rates by 0.25% or eventually 0.50 half percentage point, doesn't mean automatically 30-year fixed mortgages drop that proportion, but in time they should come down, correct? So explain that. Explain the difference there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we get screwed no matter what. It's interesting. Warren Buffett, after he announced retirement, did an interesting article I read recently about real estate, and he loves it. And he said the real time to buy was when the markets were stabilizing after the quote unquote big crash, and when the Fed for a long time kept interest rates down around 2.93%. That was the time to buy not one but two homes, he said. Now's not a great time to buy, even though historically interest rates aren't that high. But if you borrow, it's just Doug, you're pretty good at numbers. You have lenders up where you are in the Upper Valley. If you want to borrow, let's just be hypothetical. I'm being hypothetical. Let's say you want to buy, you're going to buy a new home up in the Upper Valley. Certainly, $1.2 million with mountain views is not out of the question. let's say you're going to put down more than 20%, but you want to borrow hypothetically 500,000 of that 1.2 million. And look at these interest rates right now. I think they're about fixed for 30 years, but is it 6.7? Does that sound right? Okay. So you're borrowing 500 and the bank might want you to escrow some property taxes if you're borrowing. So let's say it's 12,000 a year property taxes, so 1,000 a month in property taxes. Just give me a ballpark for 500,000 what that monthly mortgage payment will be with your property taxes. Okay. Now let's go back to when 40. Okay. Now to let people know why there was so much happening. Now, let's just go back when rates were 3%, because a lot of people out there have fixed mortgages at 3%. They probably should never let go. 3%, 500,000, same equation. What would your monthly be? So there you go. Yeah. Yeah. Or if that. Yeah, if that. Yeah. Yeah, if that. If that. So you have a good long-term view. So that's right. So that 1.2 million has probably gone up, not quite double, but it might have been 800,000, 3 or 4 years ago. Let me ask you this, when friends visit and you live in a beautiful part of the state, you live up in the Hanover area, I can disclose that, I guess. You love it, you're passionate. It's a pretty part of the state. And when friends visit and they say, "Wow, things are just real estate's expensive here." And Seacoast, Doug, I can tell you anywhere from, Rye up to Dover, places even like Madbury and Barrington now coming to the mix, Exeter, Bedford, New Hampshire, all of New Hampshire, southern Maine, York County, up into Kennebunkport, any Cape Nettic, any of these places, all the way up the main coast. Real estate is exploding really from a lack of affordability. When people say is this going to level off, Doug? Locally here in New Hampshire, like up in your neck of the woods, when someone says, "Is this going to level off in a couple of years?" What's your answer to them? Wow. See, that's not a problem on the coast, though. It's not the lot size. It's just everyone's paying too much. But all right. Oh, you could have a $2 million home on a half an acre. It would be a vertical. All right, we got to run. We got to run. Thank you, Doug. All right, Anna Brown, Citizens Count, coming up next. Good morning, Gary. Yes, looking forward